Hi, I'm Shayna. I'm the designer here at Sequis. Welcome to this Flip Chart Friday, where we're going to be talking about common mistakes and problems on websites and how you can fix them. The first problem I see on websites is overwhelming the customer. Too many fonts, colors, options, and just too much going on. The solution is to reduce and simplify. First, focus on your colors. You want to use your brand colors and you want a pop of color for conversion elements and calls to action. That's the most important thing on your website, so you really want to add focus to that with that different color that's different from your brand colors. Reduce the number of colors overall. Next are fonts. I would say 2 maximum is recommended. If you have too many going on, it looks bad and cluttered, and people can't focus on things. You also want to add hierarchy by adding titles that are bigger and bolder than your paragraph fonts. Next is your content. People don't come to websites to read novels. You want 2 short, concise paragraphs with a link or button to an interior page where they can read and learn more if they're interested. Next is your navigation. You don't want too many options because then people can't find what they're there to look for. So remove any unnecessary options and then maybe organize it using a thing called a mega menu. That's where it opens up. It's kind of wide. You organize it with columns, with titles, with categories. So organize it, everything, sort it by the categories. That way they can easily find what they're looking for. Next is use a lot of white space. Don't have everything crowded together because then people can't focus on what's important and it's hard to read and find things. So remove a lot of that unnecessary clutter. And always remember, if everything is important on your website, then nothing is. So stop yelling at your customer and really reduce and simplify to create a better user experience. Another common problem I see is complicated and long contact forms. The solution to this is simple. Just ask for the absolute bare minimum that you need. Remove any of those unnecessary forms first. If you're not shipping something to somebody, for example, you don't have to ask for their address. If you need that information later, for example, when they're scheduling an appointment, you can get that information over the phone when you call them. It's a way better experience. Next is focus on the required fields versus the optional. Required fields should be the absolute thing that you need. So that's the name and the phone number. Everything else can be optional, such as email, message, appointment detail information. Most people will fill out more than the required, so you'll get a lot of that information anyways, but just don't make it necessary for them to submit the form to you. Then you can organize these with titles. So you can have a title such as contact information, and then if you're scheduling an appointment or they're requesting an appointment, you can have a title such as appointment details. Next is everybody hates CAPTCHA. I get these wrong every single time. They're really hard to read and do. So just remove those. If you need a spam filter, replace it with the simple "I'm not a robot" checkbox. It's an easy way to get rid of the spam, but not make your user suffer through a CAPTCHA. If you don't get a lot of spam, you might not even need that "I'm not a robot" option. Another problem is unorganized, messy, crowded footers. The solution to this is to organize and prioritize. There's a few must-haves for a good user experience that you should just always have in your footer. So we'll start from the top. You want to start with your logo. You want it to be able to link to your homepage when you click on it. Next is an address with a link to directions such as Google Maps. So if people are looking for your business, it's easy for them to find you. If people don't come to your business, such as you're a service company and you go to their house, it's still important for credibility and for Google rankings. You still want it. Next is your phone number. You want it big and easy to see, and you want it tap to dial. So if you're on a mobile phone, you want to be able to click on that phone number with your thumb and pull open the option for them to call you right then. Next is a contact button. You actually want the form that we talked about earlier. You don't want an email us at option. Nobody ever actually uses that option, and the only people who do will be spam, so don't include that. Next is navigation. So your user has gotten to the bottom of the website. You want a few options for them to navigate elsewhere on your website, that way they stay on it. So having those link options are important. That way they can easily find something else. Next are your hours of operation, and if you include 24/7 emergency service for those home service companies out there. You don't want your user to think that you're closed or that you can't come to them in the middle of the night if it's an emergency, so just always include that in the footer. That way they don't have to hunt for that information. Next are your social media icons. This is important for credibility. People check your social media platforms for reviews, and you also want to keep those up to date. Remove any of those unused social media platforms. Next is all of your legal information. So that includes your copyright, the name of the company, the privacy policy, the terms and conditions. All that information is important to have in your footer, even if it's pretty small. And if you're a home service company, you also want to include your license number. Next are some optional things you can have in your footer. So if you're hiring or you're always hiring, including a big now hiring graphic for people looking to work at your company. Other things you can include are branding elements, such as a service truck that looks really good and it just reinforces that brand credibility. Review sites, such as BBB and other awards, can all be grouped together, small and organized, but that way they can also check how you're rating online. And then if you have a company who did your website design or SEO, you can also include a link or logo of that company. Pretty much you can get rid of a lot of the other things. There's a few other things that you might be able to have, but the important thing is now that you have all that information in your footer, it's all pretty important. You want to be able to organize it. One way to do so is you can use a column grid system, so 3 to 5 columns. That way you have lists of these elements, and then you can include all of the legal stuff small at the bottom and use a divider line just to keep it at the bottom, out of the way. Remember, users come to your footer because they've already scrolled through an entire page of your website, so give them some good options so that they can easily navigate and stay on your site. Thanks for joining us for this Flip Chart Friday. As always, we are happy and here to help, so comment below with any questions or if you need any advice on how to improve your website today. Thanks and have a good weekend.